A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Films I'm Willing to Talk About Again. And with all the examples that I've talked about so far, I feel like that I've got a pretty good groove setting in. And so with that in mind, let's just continue going with some more films that I will in fact label for this series. One of which is yet another example of Pixar being one of the finest film production companies that we've seen so far. One of the only leading examples of a production company that bases their films on CG. And while many people might not actually like CG for the way it is, it sure is so much better than what you could ever achieve from a whole level of different things. CGI really is that flexible, and it's also that articulate and creative. So in any case, why don't we just get on going by talking a bit about the film from 2008, WALL-E. This one, of course, I can sure tell you, since the very first time I saw it, if you can take a look from this picture right here, you'll basically see that this is just me looking at the television screen, wondering, what is WALL-E actually like? Of course, I've already gotten to know a little bit about the actual poster itself, as it was in fact on the DVD cover that I was able to get. I basically got this as a gift from somebody, and I popped it in the DVD player, and I was able to find out for myself that the latest Pixar film at the time, 2008, is unbelievable. Like, I could never quite find a big visual representation of the huge, incredible evolution and innovation of Pixar's technique. I could never quite find anything much better than this. Although I will have to mention, a lot of their more recent additions sure have been making quite a bit of a round throughout the community, and they sure have been highlighting a lot of details that we might not have been able to get back then. The detail, of course, is the key word here that I'm pretty much putting together. But in any case though, the year is 2805, early on in the 29th century, hundreds of years from now by this point. And it really does make you wonder exactly, how does the future play out? Life on Earth, civilization as we know it, could in fact evolve to a point where it is more than able to handle every obstacle in life. From pandemics, to world wars, to ginormous meteorites coming down, and a whole bunch of other possible disasters. There's a chance that we could invent a cure for AIDS at some point. There's a chance that we could actually prevent a tsunami from entering any sort of city or densely populated area. And there's always a good opportunity that we could actually find a way to reverse all of the planet's many climate changes, especially with all the incredibly bad weather changes and other such adverse conditions that we've never had before in our whole lives. So WALL-E does give us a big gap into the future, as distant as we could possibly go. Certainly not as distant as what the Futurama cartoon had shown us, being in the 31st century, nearly 300 years later. But still, the year 2805 was quite a time to be in. However, as this film had actually depicted, it is in fact a desolate, abysmal wasteland of a planet. Earth itself is completely covered in trash. Lots of things had basically gone wrong, which of course prevents a lot of biological evolution and growth of most crops, plants, etc. from taking place. Humanity was able to find a solution that would hopefully save them from themselves. The toxic atmosphere and many other environmental changes would not allow any sort of civilization to remain on Earth any longer. Humanity will in fact embrace the stars, thanks to a large star cruiser called the Axiom, a vessel created by a company known as By and Large. And this company, whom is of course led by the president, whom of course is played by the amazing Fred Willard in this film, seeks out to hopefully help humanity evolve and grow out there in space, away from this one amazing blue marble that had now turned into an embarrassingly high-hoped planet that no longer serves its one purpose in life. But in any case though, WALL-E's main goal is to clean up all of the trash and set a whole new path for humanity when they come back down to Earth, especially if life begins to grow all over again. After some time spent out there on the whole planet itself, WALL-E eventually comes across the one thing that would guarantee a new life of civilization and a hope for all people and all of life as we know it. A plant was growing in the ground underneath a refrigerator. And WALL-E discovers this, picks up the plant, and takes it back home inside of his own Earth grounds unit. But then, of course, eventually comes down a large spacecraft. A spacecraft that is loaded with a specialized droid that can hover called Eve. And this one droid, whom is equipped with a large laser cannon and a bit of a cheerful personality by all means, with some serious hopes in mind and one plain old directive: to search for life on Earth and to hopefully see if recolonization could in fact be possible. And this does eventually take place after WALL-E takes Eve over to his home, showcasing a lot of his most prized possessions and all that. And once the planet gets into Eve's possession, then well, it does not come back out. Eve shuts down. The spacecraft eventually was able to hone in on Eve's signal and pick her up, inadvertently taking WALL-E with it, as WALL-E had in fact developed a special relationship and felt rather affectionate towards Eve. But then, of course, this is where we get to the biggest point in the whole film possible: the Axiom itself. As the spacecraft carrying Eve and WALL-E lands inside, they both eventually head on over to the captain's office, which is situated high above, close to the very top of the space cruiser itself. This large vessel is home to a lot of different things: restaurants, a monorail, swimming pools, homes, and etc. A lot of the basic needs that most people would need to survive and also to not become bored. In any case though, this is pretty much where we do get to see a lot of changes take place. And with the fact that most people are wanting to know exactly how this film plays out, well, it's mostly a combination of things like visual storytelling and a true understanding to how our future is supposed to give us lots of new things to look forward to. Considering how we're at a time where a lot of things have happened and a lot of things are guaranteed to happen down the line, but we can always do what we can to try to prevent these sort of bad things from happening all at once. At some point in time, we're going to want to have our heads together to really come up with a plan to ensure that we will not have to worry about this kind of stuff ever again. Yet in this movie, we do get to see a lot more of this certain example take place. Because after some time spent on the Axiom, the captain himself comes across the plant itself. He was able to find out that this one plant is able to guarantee life on Earth again, and that any and all biological growth and agricultural needs for Earth might be a possibility. That is, if they can in fact return home safely and begin to grow crops and other such plants. But then, of course, this is where the big twist begins to set in. As the autopilot, the ship's steering wheel, whom is also an artificial intelligence-based droid that is in fact above on the ceiling, does in fact reveal that he himself has his own prime directive to not allow the Axiom itself to return to Earth or to recolonize any other such planet. Everybody is to remain inside the Axiom at all times. And this was of course revealed thanks to a hidden video message played by the president himself of By and Large. Again, played by Fred Willard, in case you're wanting to know. But in any case though, the fact that the planet actually got aboard the Axiom and its actual green growing organism is only the fact that the planet itself might actually be alive and able to counteract against the incredibly bad atmospheric changes and unbelievably harsh environmental impacts that we've all known throughout the whole time since the movie started. And so a lot of things begin to happen. A personal grudge begins to take place between the captain and Otto. Eventually they fight off together, allowing the captain to eventually activate the one source that is guaranteed to allow the Axiom to automatically cruise all the way back to Earth within light speed function, known as the Leto deck. This deck does in fact become a large venue to where the planet can be delivered, and once the origin of it is verified, it can then be automatically set course for Earth. After a lot of trouble that happens all over the place, lots of resistance follows as Otto tries his best to stop everybody from trying to get back to Earth, but ultimately fails. After the captain literally pulls the plug by setting the on-off switch to off, rendering him at manual mode. As for everybody else, well, they were able to successfully get the Axiom all the way back to Earth, and once they land on Earth, the one mission that they have here is to recolonize, repopulate, and also reestablish a lot of the world's finest pieces of culture and other such components that would be necessary to ensure that civilization is proper and lively. And where we pretty much end here is the fact that Wally and Eve live happily ever after, and the rest of humanity is nice and safe from all of these oncoming disasters. Their great efforts to be able to regrow crops of all sorts is in fact possible once again. And so with that in mind, I do feel like that this film is not only worthy of so many different things out there. Many people have debatably called this the greatest Pixar film ever made because of a lot of reasons that it has. Yet I don't really see all of that beginning to take as much of an effect on me as some people might suggest. Yet it is still an outstanding masterpiece, by all accounts. And so with that in mind, that's pretty much all you need to know here. If you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.